do we have a quorum yet?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we're live.
Okay, before we start this council meeting, I'm sure there's a few people in council chambers. Can you just let me know who they are, get name? The
Yep.
ones of us who are online.
Sure. So we have councilors Hagee and Harker with council, myself running the technology. We have Shannon Stacy, CPO, and we have
Good.
2 people related to the vicious dog appeal. And I believe it is Loretta Cahoon and Janelle Nielsen.
Okay, good. Well, welcome to our council chambers, you 3 and the other council members. Okay, then we'll start this meeting. I'll call it to order. There's an agenda in front of you. Is any additions or deletions from anybody? If not, then I need a motion to accept the agenda.
I'll move.
Councilor Hagee makes that motion. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, good. Delegations, the vicious dog appeal. I'm not sure how to start. You've got Loretta Cahoon starting first. Curtis, is that how you want to start, or do you want to?
Yeah, I felt Loretta Cahoon was the one that initiated the appeal. So her having the first opportunity to present her perspective and her side of the story, and then allow Sergeant Stacy the opportunity to present based on an investigation that was done. And Janelle Nielsen, I thought afterwards could have an opportunity to provide their perspective, and then you could obviously ask questions throughout either presentation, that there'd be an opportunity for all 3 parties to speak afterwards. And just remind everybody to be respectful of the person who is speaking and not to interrupt each other.
So we have lots of notes that we've been able to look on this, so I'm sure we'll be talking about what's on those notes that have been forwarded to us. Okay, Mrs. Cahoon, Miss Cahoon, Loretta Cahoon, you're up, I guess.
Okay, I'm here on regards of my dog Ruby. On January 7th, a peace officer came to my house and gave me a vicious dog declaration. No one came to our house before to talk to us about the situation, and there was no investigation on why this happened. My dog was on its leash as semi-truck drove by and excited my dogs. Immediately, the Nielsen family ran behind them without saying anything. They scared my kids, and my dog protected my child. According to bylaw 3.3, no person shall tease, torment, or provoke a dog. By coming from behind without warning into my kids' personal space, they violated this bylaw. At the end of Mrs. Nielsen's statement, she says, I did not try to contact her. On December 28th at 1:06 p.m., I have a photocopy of my phone saying her name, her phone number, what time I called, and I did not leave a message because I didn't know her. I didn't know how severe the situation was because she told both my kids and my mother-in-law that it did not pierce the skin. I am sorry that this happened, but there is also blame on her side. My dog was trying to protect her owner. I have statements from my vet, my dog trainer, my groomer, my contractor who's been at my house for months fixing my house, my brother who has my dog right now, and friends. I also have an evaluation from Bogdan Dog Training Center on how this dog is not a vicious dog. And then I have also, because I wasn't allowed to bring my children here who were at the situation, I have their statements on what they said. I also have pictures of where my kids were standing and where she says her child ran. And there is no way, if her child was in that area, that my dog could have bitten her. So I have pictures to say where they were and how it happened. And if you'd like them, I can give them all these things to you guys.
So let me interrupt you just one second. You said you had a statement from your dog trainer too?
I have statements from my dog trainer and also the Bogdan Dog Training Center in Kip.
In where?
Kip.
Okay.
He evaluates vicious dogs. He also trains the dogs, the police dogs and everything, so he's dealt with vicious dogs.
Loretta, was your dog trained there or evaluated?
He was evaluated there. He's being
So,
trained by a
post-incident.
trainer here in McGrath.
Thank you.
I mean, sorry, here in Raymond.
So
Is this
evaluated after the
since-
incident?
Yeah, after the incident,
Okay,
to say
thank
that if
you.
it was a vicious dog or not.
Is this since the incident? he's been
Yes,
there?
it was
Is that what
since
you
the
mean?
incident. Because she was claiming it was a vicious dog, I wanted to get a professional opinion if this dog was vicious or not. It is a Labradoodle. And she came into my kid's space.
And do you have a
So
copy
you-
of the?
So, in
Of
other
which
words,
one?
you took this,
Assessment
you
of the
went and got a
dog.
statement from this dog trainer. Okay, since the incident.
Can you read that
Okay.
to us, Loretta?
Well, go ahead. and-
Okay. It says, dog evaluation summary of Ruby requested by Loretta Cahoon. Socialization, a little shy in not familiar environments, but warms up very fast. Approaches without hesitation. Leash/collar training, seems very well leash trained, walks nicely. Response to stranger equals evaluator leash restraint, tolerates well, no stress or aggravation. Response to leash guiding by a stranger evaluator, follows without hesitation, friendly attitude. Response to sudden loud noises, not afraid, investigate sources of noises. Response to fast hands, arm motions, not afraid, ignores. Response on leash, leading away from the owner, no stress, following without hesitation or restraint or separation anxiety. After evaluating Ruby, the Bogdan Dog Training Center, I found no reasonable or reason to classify this dog as aggressive or shy aggressive. Ruby is stable mentally in a response appropriately to contact with strangers. And then his name
Thank you.
and the date it happened.
So, Loretta, can you tell me where your kids were?
I have
And
pictures.
where the, I have to visualize this.
Yep, I have pictures. I actually
So
have-
they were on the sidewalk?
They were
on
just
the-
off the sidewalk closer to the road,
Okay,
across from basically town pump in the school.
okay, so they weren't, is there a sidewalk there?
Yes,
Mhm.
There's a sidewalk there.
yes, it was like closer
they
to the
weren't
school, it was
on
on
the
the school
sidewalk.
block.
Okay.
No, they were not, they were just off the sidewalk.
Okay.
And she says that her son was running up against the fence. And my leash is only 3 feet long. So there was no way if her son was there and my kids were there that her,
Yeah,
So your children were on the boulevard?
yes,
Between
my
the
kids
highway
were
and
on the
sidewalk.
boulevard.
Okay, has anyone else got any questions for Loretta?
I'm just trying to picture this myself. I'm not a dog owner. I've never been a dog owner, so I'm not anything close to being know anything about dogs. But you first said that Janelle's son startled the dog, and that's why he was protecting.
Yeah,
But then
startled
in
my
your,
children.
but then in the report from from the,
Yes, because he
they
didn't
said
know
that he doesn't, that
because
loud
it was
noises
a
and
semi,
stuff
as I
doesn't
said, a
startle.
semi truck drove by,
Yeah,
and so my dogs were barking at the semi truck. And then they came up immediately right behind.
okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap this around my head. It just sounded like, me like the evaluation says that loud noises and all that kind of stuff doesn't startle them, but now loud noises startled them.
It did, well, they were excited, they were
So-
already excited because my husband is a trucker, so they get excited
Yeah.
when they hear a semi truck because they think, oh my goodness, that's Dad, Labs is
Yeah.
home.
Okay.
Okay.
And then they scared-
Loretta, do you have anything else you want to share with us?
No.
Before we let Constable Stacy talk?
No, I think that's it.
Officer Stacy, okay, Officer Stacy.
Yeah,
please.
Loretta, if you find that picture,
here it
after
is.
sit down, just, oh, you got it, okay, thanks.
Joanne, I'd like to see
Thanks.
those too if I could.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, I get what they're talking about now, so the other ones here and there, yep. Right.
Thank you.
I'm really here more or less to answer questions. I can tell you a little bit. My report says essentially what happened. We received a complaint about a dog bite. I can tell you a little bit more about the bylaw and our role in it. It's difficult with dog bites because as far as investigation would go, I mean, ideally if this was a person, we'd go and talk to the person and ask them what happened. But with a dog, we can't talk to a dog. We can't ask them why they bit somebody. I have no doubt in my mind that the bite happened. The pictures speak volumes. But we don't know why the dog bit. So moving forward, we can't come up with specific strategies to reduce that risk and liability moving forward. And the bylaw doesn't give us the ability to pick and choose those strategies either. The bylaws give us all or nothing for risk reduction and liability. So it's either you put the vicious dog restrictions on or we don't. And when we do have a successful dog bite, we lean on cautiousness, risk reduction to the community, and cautiousness as far as liability. We're always concerned about liability, of course, because once we know that a successful dog bite has happened, we are concerned moving forward that if it should happen again, heaven forbid, a child gets seriously injured or maimed, which has happened in the past in other communities, we're concerned that certainly doesn't look good, and we wouldn't want that responsibility onto us that we knew about it moving forward. And we don't know what happened with the dog. We don't know why. We haven't had any complaints previously about this dog, which is often the case, but we don't know why it happened that day. So I can answer any other questions that you might have about it.
So does anyone have any questions for Officer Stacy?
I appreciate the not knowing, because you've got two sets of children that,
Yeah.
and something like that happens so fast that you don't really know what.
Now, having said that, my statement did come from an adult who was there.
Oh, there was an adult there?
Yes,
Okay.
there was an adult there.
Okay.
The victim, the bite was a 13, I believe he was 13. And Mom was with him. Mom was right there behind him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I thought that
The
was,
dogs
I thought it was
were
just two
being
sets of
handled
children.
by youth.
Great, thank
But
you.
Mom was there, so.
That's good to know. I was thinking it was children.
Yeah,
Both.
we, in cases of dog bites, we try not to get too overwhelmed by the circumstantial, because what really we do have to look at is the fact that there was a dog bite. There's a successful dog bite, and how do we deal with it now? The options that I have as a bylaw enforcement option, with the dog bylaw that we have created by town council, is that I can issue a ticket for a dog bite. I can put in the restrictions under the vicious dog. I can do both, or I can do nothing. Obviously doing nothing, I wouldn't really be doing much of my job. In this case, we tried to be reasonable, save the dog owner a little bit of money, because putting the vicious dog restrictions on them does cost a little bit of extra money. The vicious dog license does cost a little bit of extra money. If their house insurance doesn't cover the liability that's expected of them, there's a little bit of extra money involved in that. And certainly, I mean, the signs, beware of dog, are pretty negligible. But of course, there's a little bit of expectation there. So we try and be reasonable. In this case, we negated the ticket for the time being. We do have 6 months to lay that charge. So if we do have an instance where someone's being uncooperative or repeat, I have the option to go back onto that. But in this case, we're just negating it for the time being and chose to prioritize the risk reduction and liability by putting those restrictions in place. The third option I have would be to go under the Provincial Dangerous Dog Act, and that gives me the option to proceed by having someone keep the dog in a proper way or euthanizing the dog. But certainly that's a waste of the court's time in this case when I have the option to proceed reasonably under the town bylaws instead. So.
Okay, good. Any questions for Officer Stacy? I have one.
Mayor, I have one.
Okay, let me ask first, and then I'll come back to you, Councillor Foss. When you went to her house, did you explain what a vicious dog declaration meant to her? Like,
I did, yeah. I don't go over every point, but I do a brief summation of it. And then obviously it has all the details in the vicious dog declaration. And I print off an entire copy of the dog bylaw. I always advise to read everything in detail. I give a copy of my business card and recommend that they can contact me should they have any questions or concerns moving forward.
Is there any questions that Loretta might have right now to ask you about the vicious dog bylaw?
No.
Loretta,
No,
you understand it all?
the part that I need to do, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Foss.
Okay, so I see a question about provocation here, right? The dog owner is describing what she sees as a dog being provoked. I know our bylaw doesn't actually define provoked, but in my mind it feels like some intentional inciting of a response from a dog. I'm just curious what our officer, how they interpret provocation in a dog.
Yeah,
vicious dogs
that's a
scenario.
really good question, and my interpretation of provocation, certainly when we're looking at dog offenses, I go back to what I think is reasonable for a dog that could be walking down the road. So do I think it's reasonable for any dog walking down the road for someone to be able to walk past, for someone to be able to run past? I look at all the things that happen on our residential roads in our communities. It's reasonable for children to be on bicycles, for children to be on rollerblades, for people to be out exercising. So those are all the things that I think are reasonable activities on our residential streets that a dog shouldn't be reactive to. Those are things that I don't see as provocation. Something that I might see as provocation might be a child or anybody for that matter going up and grabbing a dog, going deliberately into that dog's personal space, in an aggressive manner, and making a motion with a hand, towards the dog. So those are things that I would see as provocation. Exercising, going past, I think that's something that we can expect as a normal activity in our communities. So I didn't see that as provocation. You imagine those as normal stimulus for a dog to be able to tolerate.
Can I say something? The law right now is you're not allowed to be within 6 feet of somebody. This person scared my child, was in less than 3 feet.
Yes.
That is why the provocation happened. He scared my child, and my dog should be able to protect her owner.
Yeah, so we don't operate our dog bylaws under the public health orders. We expect our dog bylaws to be able to operate at all times. So we don't incorporate our our.
But again, he came into my son's. You talked about not coming into the dog's or the child's personal space. That child came into my child's personal space and scared him. And the only reason why the dog did what he did is because my child was scared. There was a situation that scared my children.
So this
Kind of spooked them. Not really scared, but spooked them.
This is a little bit difficult to be doing this from Zoom, so I hope you understand that. Does anyone from council have any questions for Officer Stacy?
I do, Mayor.
Go ahead.
I always call you Stacy. I've got
That's okay.
to call you Shannon, but
Yeah.
would you just list the discrepancies in the adults report and what Loretta just told us? Like she said her kids were near the fence, and Loretta's got pictures showing us how far away the fence was from where the kids were. Were there any other discrepancies?
Yeah, so my complainant statement was very straightforward. It just stated that the youth were on the sidewalk with the dogs on leash. There was no discrepancies there. That as they were running towards the youth, they saw them. And I believe she said that the youth with the dogs saw them as well. That there was a mutual acknowledgement as they were approaching, and that
They're both saying no,
The
so.
kids, I don't think saw us coming up, but
No.
the dogs did.
okay,
The dogs were
Yeah.
like out of control, barking at the semi coming by.
yeah. And so maybe Ms. Nielsen could more appropriately speak to it, but my understanding is that as they approached the dogs, they moved off of the sidewalk and towards the fence line in an effort to give the dogs a wider berth. And as they were approaching and coming, the black dog in question lunged towards her son who was in front, grabbed onto his arm, which he had a jacket on, so there's a little bit of protection there. And so on and so forth. So the discrepancies would just be in more or less provocation, you could call it, because Ms. Coons believes that that the dogs were agitated, for lack of better words, by, I suppose, these people being what she believes to be too close. And the external stimulus of the noise of a semi-truck. That I suppose would be the disagreement there.
It is a
And
tough question,
it
but a
is.
child was bitten by a dog.
Yeah,
and
I do
that's-
have
that's
one
what it boils
question.
down to.
I mean,
That is it, right? And when I look at it, I see, again, that you have to look at, the reason why I made the decision I made is because I view that as normal stimulus. And again, I look back to the risk and liability factor,
Okay.
and that's, yeah.
the child was there more than, there's a group, was there 2 or 3 kids
I
in a
had
group?
I had 2 children there.
And how many children?
It was me and my son running.
Oh, it was just you 2? Okay, so my question is, okay, they moved closer to the fence, why didn't the Cahoons move farther away from the fence?
Because they didn't know that they were there. They came from behind my children and startled my children.
Oh, they were from
They
behind.
came from behind,
Okay,
startled my
now I'm-
children.
now I'm
And
seeing
then
the
my
picture.
dog protected my child because my child was startled.
Okay, so you were on the sidewalk.
No, they were not on the sidewalk.
They weren't on the sidewalk. They were
sidewalk,
off the
on the
sidewalk.
boulevard.
And they moved toward the fence. Okay, but they were behind the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm seeing this little, I thought they were coming
No,
this
they were
direction.
behind and startled my
Wait.
children.
Okay.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions for Officer Stacy? If not, we should let Janelle speak too.
Yes.
She's there, I understand.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Janelle.
I mean, I don't really have much to say. I can answer any questions you have. I mean, I'm not arguing her kids, yeah, there was a semi coming, her dogs were barking. I was scared, but my son was running ahead of us. We both had headphones on. He's 13. He's a really good runner. If anyone knows who he is, he's training for some virtual runs. And we both had headphones on. Should he have called out? Sure. He's never had an experience with a dog that's lashed out and bit him before. He was quite traumatized, so scared. I was scared. I've never seen a dog lunge like that at a person before. It latched onto his arms and shook him. Luckily, her kids were there and pulled the leash and pulled it off. So it didn't last very long, but we were both very shaken and very scared.
So it's not like
Jumped
when
up
the
and
dog
said
was
boo.
provoked, it's not like rawr or boo, or he was just in
No,
his
we were-
space running.
We were
So that's why you
training
overtook
for
the Cahoons, because
Yeah,
you were running.
you were running.
We were
Okay.
on a run. We were
We
training
were on
for
a run.
10K.
Okay, now I'm
So
getting the
honestly,
picture. You're on a run, they're on a walk. Okay.
Yeah, we both have headphones on.
Yeah.
He's fast. He's a faster runner than me, so
Yeah,
he's always a little bit ahead of me.
Yeah,
And it was appropriately on the sidewalk where
Yeah,
we had a right of way.
Where we have, yes, and there's snow on either side, the semi was coming, and he ran off into the snow, but I mean, he's running in a snowbank, so maybe,
But you can see from the pictures, there is not a snowbank.
well, I'm not gonna sit here and.
I'm just saying.
No interruption
Yes,
allowed in
I'm
this,
sorry,
we're just
I'm
letting
sorry.
each group
I'm
have
not gonna
their
argue,
individual-
he tried to go around,
yeah,
and the dog lunged at him.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
it was very traumatizing for him. And
That's
it was
one of the
very
cogent
traumatizing
points for me, is that a child was traumatized by a dog.
Yeah,
It does, I don't know what Ruby was thinking.
I don't know either,
And I hate to see it, Janelle against Loretta. I mean, that's not what it's all for. But I mean, it's just really a dog bit a child, and that's kind of what we use as the determiner for labeling a dog vicious. I mean, if he hadn't had a jacket on, I'm sure by the pictures that I saw, it would have broken the skin.
It did break his
It
skin.
did
It's
break
not
his
like,
skin.
it didn't
Okay.
like, he didn't get large gashes, but it broke his skin.
So it had him and shook him.
Yeah, it
Okay.
shook him for like a couple seconds. And the kids, luckily, the kids were there that they reacted really well. They automatically, it's not like they paused, like.
Yeah, kudos to them. Great.
Yeah,
They
like
did the
they
right
did
thing.
great. I'm sure they were shaken. I was shaken. Like like I said, I've never seen a dog act like that before. So
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that he wasn't scared. I'm not arguing any of those. It was a very unique situation, but
Yeah.
we were just on
Yeah.
the run. Like we
Yeah.
were just trying to.
Yeah.
That's all we were doing.
Yeah.
Okay,
No malice from anybody, like really anybody, not even Ruby probably, right?
No, and that's the unfortunate thing with, dogs are dogs,
Yeah,
you
and
know.
they use their mouths, they bite, you know,
Yeah,
but they should
we
not.
don't know what the dog was thinking, that's the problem.
Yes.
And that's
So
why
we-
it's our job to do something, right?
so does anyone else have any questions for Janelle? We appreciate you, what you said was exactly what your report said too, so we appreciate that.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no other questions, and for sure no one has any questions, then I guess we can move on. I think we come to this in the next part. To
So
make
Mayor,
a decision.
if I may.
Go ahead.
I know that Loretta has some additional correspondence and information that not all of you have seen. And so I'm not sure if you feel you have enough information to make a decision or not, but if you would like some time, we can collect that information and include it at a committee meeting. I just want that to be in your consideration if you feel that that information is pertinent for your decision-making process.
So that's when we come to that part on the agenda, right?
Correct. So Loretta, if you're still here, if you could leave your pictures and we'll make a copy of them
Yeah, I
for
would
the
like
extra
to see
statements you have.
I have copies of all the statements.
Awesome. Yeah. So I just want council to be aware, if you feel you have enough information, those that are here and at alternative locations to make a decision, that's totally fine. You were in your right to do so tonight. But if you'd like to see that information, there's nothing stopping you from tabling for a week to the committee and bring it up at the following council meeting 2 weeks from today.
Yeah, we can, we'll make that determination when we get there. So, yeah, if she can leave that with you, it might answer some
Okay.
questions. Okay. Well, thank you for coming in, the three of you. Okay.
Yep.
And let's move on.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
thank you very much.
So number 4, approval of minutes.
So I'm still without a dog for 2 more weeks, and then in 2 weeks I'll know I can bring my dog back home.
They'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we
I
will.
but I just need to know, so I have no dog for 2 more weeks, and then I find out in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you would have to treat the dog as if she were a dangerous offender.
And I refuse to sign papers, so,
Yeah.
okay, just gotta make sure I have them all.
Okay, so we move on?
I just gotta make sure I have them all.
Sure, just leave them here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I want to make sure that we see everything that you've got, so we consider everything. You know, and that's what we
Well,
want
there's
to
things here
consider.
that,
We want to make an educated decision, not an emotional decision.
And there's a huge inconvenience to have a dog labeled a vicious dog. But holy cow, when a dog bites a child, that's like there was a day when you just put the dog down immediately, no questions asked. So we've progressed from that, and maybe we have to have a step between, you know, just dog licensing and vicious dog licensing. But it sounds to me like Ruby's probably not a vicious dog, but she did bite and traumatize a child, and
and I
that's
understand that, but there's blame on both sides, that's all I'm saying. I am sorry that this happened.
yeah. And I get that, that comes through real strong.
Is it okay that I'm still sitting, or do I need to
Absolutely.
stand?
That's
Okay, I am absolutely appalled that my dog would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know, I
And that's
wasn't there.
appropriate.
I
I'm glad to
wasn't
see that.
I wasn't allowed to bring my kids. But she told my kids, she told my kids, she told my mother-in-law that it did not break the skin. And I called her 10 minutes from coming in the house. My daughter came home, I came in the house, and immediately Angie was upset. I could see that she was upset, and I was like, what's wrong? And she's all like, Ruby bit somebody, and she started crying. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And everything. So then I talked to Jacob because he was more stable, and I'm like, what happened? And he told me what happened. And then Angie was able to calm down, and she said a little bit what happened. And I'm like, so then I go to my mother, and I'm like, what happened? I was just shopping. And she's all like, Janelle Nilsson called, this is what she said. And both of them said that she's at the scene, she looked at it and said it did not break the skin. And then she called my mother-in-law, and she said it did not break the skin. And then all of a sudden it took 2 days to report, and it did break the skin. I don't know why 2 days later it broke the skin.
But they did took him to the hospital. I mean, do we have a hospital report? I mean, they
No,
took
they
him
phoned the
right
hospital.
then.
They phoned the hospital, they didn't take him.
Well, they didn't take him, they just phoned the
Yeah,
hospital.
but when did they call? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know either.
No.
And everything. But it took 2 days before they called the peace officers. I don't know. I took the pictures to Bogdan Dog Trainer. He says, those are bruising. It's not pierced skin, it's bruising.
Yeah.
That's, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
that-
appalled that my dog
I don't
did
even
this.
think that's an issue,
Okay. But
whether
I'm
the
saying,
skin is
I'm appalled
broken.
that my dog did this.
But
But
anytime,
there's fault on
Yeah.
both sides. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying, is there's fault on both sides.
well, I don't think a fault is running on a sidewalk. That's not
But
really
he-
a fault. I don't think.
No,
But
it's
he
not
came-
fair to
the
use
fault-
COVID.
the
It's not fair
fault-
to use
okay,
COVID
no.
restrictions.
There's not a fault.
Okay, even, no, not even that. The fault was he saw 2 dogs barking. And as she said, they were barking out of control. That was her words. They were barking out of control. And he came less than 3 feet away from him. Less than 3 feet. I would never, if a dog was barking, I would never go near it, let alone 3 feet to it, less than 3 feet to it.
And I wouldn't
Yeah.
either, but Ruby's rights always get trumped by a child's rights in every case.
Yeah, and
So,
but again, it's less than 3 feet. My dog was on leash. My dog was, it
Yeah.
was less than 3 feet. And as I say, I will say it 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000.
I think
so
we're gonna lose
we're not
electricity.
trying to turn this into an argument.
No,
So
we
Councillor
aren't.
Fong, Councillor Harker, have you asked enough questions?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
so. We'll just,
Sorry.
we'll see
Yeah.
here.
That's it. I'm done.
Okay, then we'll move on.
Thank you, Loretta.
Okay, number 4, approval of minutes. You got the council minutes in front of you? January 5th minutes?
See my password, I should move it, I guess, but
Oh,
that's what I thought it was.
Any discussion on these?
I'll move to approve the minutes from January 5th.
Councillor Foss moves to approve. Any discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Yes,
Yes,
Very good. We have the committee minutes from January 12th.
I'll move the minutes from January 12th, committee meetings,
Okay.
minutes.
Any discussion on these from anyone? Okay, all in favor then?
Yes.
yeah,
Very good, thank you. Okay, we now move to financial report. You can see the financial report is a little bit different than we've had in the past. Maybe I'll turn the time to Councillor Foss if you want to explain what we're doing here, Councillor Foss.
Sure. So in our audit finance committee meeting this week, we discussed a proposal to perhaps eliminate the check report from the town council meeting agenda. We review that in our audit and finance committee meeting, and and get feedback from administration on any questions or concerns that we have. And so we discussed possibly removing that from our council regular agenda. I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but it seemed as though that committee was supportive of that idea, but we wanted to bring it to council. Now I'll say that the checklisting would still be on the audit and finance public agendas, so they would be still publicly disclosed. Other members of council who aren't on that committee would be welcome to review those or comment on those or raise questions related to those in that audit and finance meeting. But the proposal is to skip that portion of this meeting. And so I think we're looking for feedback and council's feels about this one.
Okay, good job. So in other words, Councillor Fromm and myself are on that committee, and we spent an hour and a half going over everything on the audit and finance committee, and it came up. So Councillor Peters, Councillor Harker, Councillor Hagee, if you have any questions on this or want to know a little more, have any more questions, or if you want to know a little more what we're talking about, or if you're okay, you could all three maybe give us what your feelings are right now.
Aaron?
Go ahead, Councillor Peters.
So where is that checklisting gonna be so people could view it? I'm fine with it if it's not part of this meeting, but I definitely think it needs to be on public record where it's accessible for those that are interested.
And we agree with that too. It will be on that audit and finance committee meeting, and they can see it there. And we talked about that, Councillor Foss, a little bit, that it should be made available and be in the public for anyone that wants to look at it, especially even if they want to come to that meeting or look at that meeting. So we've talked about that. For sure, they need to be accessible to the public.
So
they would be listed on the same place that our council agendas get listed, in that agendas section of the website.
Yeah, we would be making just some changes to our procedures so that the audit and finance committee meeting isn't, it's more publicly accessible. The content that's there's a bit more detail even than what we bring to the audit and finance committee meeting. We wanted to try and find a way to make sure that there's fiscal transparency and disclosure, which is essential, but also not bog down a council meeting with more bureaucratic questions. Typically, if you go to most communities, especially as you get larger, this is just not something you would see. Smaller communities technically do this, but they don't have audit and finance committee meetings independent typically. And so we would be definitely making sure that the audit and finance committee agenda is public, that it has some date, some time in between when it's posted to when it's being heard. The public technically is allowed to attend. There may be a portion of it which would go into closed session, no different than council or committee meeting. However, just at the moment with COVID restrictions, it would probably just be, if people wanted to attend, we would probably have a situation where people would register almost that they were going to attend and actually come to the meeting, just so we could control numbers. We're also trying to manage our workforce to broadcast the meeting and live stream it. It does take a bit of extra work, and there's only so many employees that know how to do that, and we don't want to add an additional meeting that an employee has to take away from their families after hours for managing that. So we're trying to find a way, while we're in COVID restrictions, to not have to broadcast it per se, but still have public accessibility.
So Curtis, what you're saying then is if someone wanted to be a part of that from the public, we could give them the whereby link so they could join us?
Yeah, actually, we could do that at this time of COVID as well. There is, again, a portion that may not be public based on what the specifics discussed, but the vast majority of that information is in broad detail and it's publicly available. So
that meeting is ran the same way as this meeting. Councillor Foss is the chair, and when we have closed, we just go into close, and those people would not be able to listen to those things that are in close. So it worked the same way as this.
Yeah, we just wouldn't live stream it just for capacity challenges.
Right.
So I just have a question, just
Sure.
so I understand this right. So what you're saying, Councillor Foss, Curtis, everybody, is that all the details of the checks and the monthly finances are discussed so thoroughly in the finance committee's meeting that we don't really need to look at them. Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're saying?
Plenty of checks and balances, yeah.
Yeah, we have, that's what
They're
I'm
looked
saying.
at 5 times before they even get to us. Well,
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating a bit,
Yeah.
but I mean 2 or 3
So-
times.
Really, it's kind of redundant for us to look at it again when you guys have already examined it, and yeah, obviously, there's more than one pair of eyes, so I'm fine with, is that what you're saying?
All members of council will still receive an email link to the agenda package, so whether or not you're on that committee or not, you'll still be able to review
Yeah, you'll be able to, still be able
You
to
have
see
those
those
on your email.
numbers.
You can send it off to us. The public still has access to view it, and they can definitely reach out to individual council members if they have it. It's just we're trying to cut back on redundancy and
Yeah,
duplicity of information. but still
Streamline a
provide-
little bit, I get it. So if we had a question, we could just text one of, Counselor Foss or whoever's at that meeting and say, hey, I got a question about that, just get back to me on that, you know?
For sure, Councillor Harker. exactly.
Okay, got it, that's all I was wondering.
Councillor Hagan, you okay then?
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay. So when we have this financial report, then we'll just look at the bank reconciliation statement and then the operating budget update, and we'll have one motion on financial report for that. Okay? So December bank reconciliation, want to go to that, please? Anyone have any questions on this? Okay, if not, then we want to go to the budget update.
And so I'll just say while it's being brought up here, there really isn't a lot of information for fiscal 2021 information. We are so new into the year. And so this is just a year-to-date end of 2020 budget expenditure summary. There will obviously be adjustments that will be occurring as year-end and audit financial statement preparations are occurring, but this is largely where we finished, and we were pleased to say that we were under budget overall and in the vast majority of categories, and so we were able to be as efficient as we can.
Councillor Foss, do you have any comments on this as the chair of this committee?
I think only that, in our review of it, I think we were all pretty happy with the state of the finances of the town of Raymond based on, we're looking at the end of a year, and it's a world of difference from where we were at the end of the previous year. So it's very positive, I think.
Okay, good. And any other questions from anyone? If not, we need a motion to accept the financial report.
I'll move.
Is that Councillor From?
From, yes.
Okay, trying to recognize your voice. So, okay, we have a motion then. Any other discussion? If not, then all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So items for discussion, 6.1, the vicious dog appeal. So is the extra stuff that she left there, is that, is anybody, the 3 that are there, did you have a chance to look at that? Is it mostly the stuff about going to the dog trainer and Kip?
I think she had some more pictures that she mentioned. Maybe not. We haven't seen it yet, but it's coming around.
There's the
Should we give
training
you,
stuff.
should we give you a little bit of time to look at the stuff that she's got? You're gonna be our eyes for it. We don't, Councillor Computers and Councillor Foss and I.
Okay.
See what you're seeing. Councillor Computers, you missed this delegation, correct? And you probably, I would say you abstained from your vote on this when we talked about this.
Okay.
There's still 4 of us, 5 of us to make a decision. Maybe I'll go first. This is just my 2 bits on animals. I have horses, and when I have a sometimes horses can get vicious too. And when they bite, sometimes they bruise, but sometimes their teeth mark, as it swells, there is puncture wounds on the horse.
That's true.
On this dog, you could tell that it was a bruise, but then you could see there was some puncture marks from the, anyway, I can't remember those teeth, what they're called anyway. But you could see that on the arm of the picture. So I thought Officer Stacy had a good report. I thought Loretta had a good defense. And I thought Janelle had, her report was very good too. But my opinion is, and I know she took it to a trainer, that's why I asked the question about if she understood what a vicious dog declaration meant. I mean, I'm like you, Councilor Fawn. Before we used to have them put them down. Now they just have to, if they take them out, we have to put a muzzle on them, and we have to let people know they have a vicious dog. Am I correct?
Yes, and they have to put signs in the house or on the premises.
On the yard, on the fence.
Keep the dog secure.
I don't think there's, I go for on the side of the people, when they run up behind the dog shouldn't bite him or jump at him. And, he shouldn't be trying to protect his owners or the children of the owner. He should just be going for a walk. That's my opinion. To me, he's a dangerous dog. Anyone else care to make a comment? Councillor Foss?
I know we discussed it at length, the potential of having a trainer's comments be relevant in this process. And I think, although I advocated for it, we decided not to include that as a consideration when it comes to vicious dogs. And so I know she's got a bunch of comments from people saying that these dogs are not vicious, but I think that's kind of irrelevant as the bylaw is currently written. Also, our bylaw doesn't care whether it punctured or not. It just asks whether it was an unprovoked bite. And my take is that I agree with the officer that this is not provocation. This was a typical exchange that would happen on our streets. And a dog shouldn't be lunging and biting based on no provocation like this. And so I'm ready to make a decision on this without having seen what she's provided.
So am I.
I agree. I just want to say one thing. I do think that all the activity was completely normal. But I also think if there was an adult with the children, I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of me as an adult, I would have completely pulled the dog away as far as I could get, because the jogger really had nowhere to go. I mean, where he's going over towards the fence, right? Well, he would have had to go around and then gone completely the other direction to get around them. So, and, you know, when I heard the word provoke, I thought maybe he was taunting or teasing or something, but in reality, he was just going for a run. And even though, the dog got scared, the whole point is a dog, is a dog. And you don't know what they're gonna do. And that's why I think you err on the side of the person that was bit. And I wouldn't want to be on the same road as that dog because it bit once. And from the people I talk to, when a dog is bit, they are very likely to bite again. I'm sorry, and that's just me. So I'm ready to say
they were coming up from behind.
Yes.
But that still doesn't give the dog a reason to bite.
No, and like I said, that they could have pulled the dog away further, but.
Well, they probably didn't see him coming either. All of a sudden he was there, but I disagree that he was in their space, the dog's space. I don't think
dogs have a space.
So anyone else have a comment they want to share?
Yeah, the first thing that she said was, there's no way he could have bit him because the leash is only 3 feet long and they're 6 feet away. Well, he did bite him.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that. But even, I'm just looking at the report from the training center. And the two things that jumped out at me was, loud noise, not afraid, investigate source of noise so he doesn't get startled. And fast hands or arms motion, he doesn't get startled. So how does a boy running by him startle him? If loud noises and hand motions and stuff don't startle him.
I think that the point
Right.
that he was defending his owners is cogent, because
Yeah,
dogs do
yeah.
that, and it's
I'm
nice
just
to
trying to
have a dog that'll
They
do
do
that.
that,
Yeah,
but
And that was
that
absent
could,
in Kip,
but the point is that could happen again.
yeah, and
That
it
could
will.
happen.
It
Again,
could
yeah.
happen
He's-
again by somebody running, you don't.
Right behind-
you-
right from
you-
behind.
You can't put a sign on with the kids and the dog saying, don't come up behind us fast, cause the dog might bite.
Right.
I'm sorry, we're not gonna get into that game, we're
The-
not doing it.
I made my decision when Janelle talked, and she said it grabbed my son and it shook
And
him, and
shook
he was
him.
traumatized, and
Yeah.
that's the end.
That's
That's a
the
vicious
end.
dog.
That's
The dog
the
bit,
end.
and that's the end.
and bit him enough to shake him.
And
I
I don't
agree.
believe he was provoked, and I don't believe in the COVID. It's not fair to use the COVID argument today.
And I do understand that the kid said, oh, I'm all right. Well, he's 13, what's he gonna do, cry? I
Yeah.
mean, he's 13 and he's a boy and he's trying to hold it together.
He's a
But,
tough little kid.
but,
And I hate to
but
say
it
that.
sounds like he was pretty
Yeah,
scared.
he's shaking off.
Yeah,
I know they love Ruby. I've seen this report, by the way. So,
I know.
but the dog bit and traumatized
I
a
know.
13-year-old child, and I'm just glad it wasn't a 3-year-old child
Me too.
with scars on or lost eye or whatever.
And I'm glad the kid had a jacket on.
Me too, because it would have been way worse.
It would have been
I
way
believe that if
worse.
he didn't have a jacket on, it would have punctured the skin.
Yeah,
For sure.
And the comment that Councilor Braun just made, it very easily could have got his face and not his arm.
yeah,
And then he might be scarred for a long time.
yep.
Could
So-
have
Dogs shouldn't be doing that. The child has a right of way on a walkway,
Yeah.
past the school, and that's he should have been safe on that walkway. And if that dog is not gonna respect children, he can't be there anymore.
So we had pictures, if you remember that other one, that lady was by the elementary school, it was on the camera.
Uh-huh.
The child went by and the dog just leaped to go to grab him too.
And that's how fast it can happen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
This one is worse than that one, in my opinion.
yeah.
And we didn't back down on that designation, and I don't believe we should on this one.
I
I hate
don't
to
either.
say that. I like
Me
Loretta,
too.
I like her whole family, and I like dogs, but
yeah.
Yeah, me too, I grew up with dogs, I haven't had a dog in my married life, but I grew up with dogs, I like dogs. Okay, so we're prepared to make a motion then?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Someone wanna make that motion?
I'll do it. To uphold the designation.
Go ahead, I couldn't hear you.
To uphold the designation.
Vicious dog.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, if that dog bites again, what happens to that dog the next time? Is he put down?
All of the responsibility belongs to the family after our designation. None of it to us.
Okay.
So if it does bite, we aren't
It's because
liable.
they breached
Yeah, they have breached
yeah,
It won't be our decision.
responsibilities.
Well, it won't be our decision, cause we designated
It's
it
vicious, so if
vicious,
he bites again,
and that removes liability from the town,
yeah,
which is, we absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
And Constable Stacy made that very clear to me,
Yeah.
that we have to do that,
for sure.
cause we don't wanna be liable,
Okay,
certainly.
there's a motion on the floor then that we upheld the vicious dog declaration. So then I'll call a vote, if there's no other discussion, then all in favor?
Yes,
Yes,
Yes. Okay, good. Yeah, that's,
it's a hard
I'm
one,
glad we did this, cause we open up a can of worms if we start changing our mind on.
yeah,
on
we can't
different
do that.
things. We need to be constant on what we do.
yeah.
Okay. I feel bad for her too.
So do I,
I do too.
I really do.
People love their dogs, they really do.
My kids have dogs and they love their dogs.
And the thing is they don't have to get rid of their dog, they can keep their dog, it's just gonna be a home dog. I guess, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, they can keep it in the house. They
But
can keep it in the
you can
yard.
take it out with the muzzle, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can even walk the dog
Yeah.
whenever they want, but it's got to be
Has
under,
that muzzle on.
Yeah.
Not, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit more money, a little costly for them, but at least they get to keep the dog, so. Okay, let's move on to 6.2 then. Bylaw 993-12, the dog control amendment. Okay, Curtis, you wanna talk about this, or is it Abe?
I can do that.
Go ahead, Abe.
Yeah, so we had first reading of this a couple of weeks ago. If you recall, we are proposing to change the license fees for guide and service dogs, government registered guide and service dogs. And so the bylaw has those changes made. We advertised this to social media, did not get any comments back. Got a few thumbs up, but no comments back.
Good.
So
That's great.
it's up here for second and third reading tonight.
Okay, good enough. Do we need someone to make a motion for second reading?
I'll move second reading. Sorry, John.
Okay.
Is that Councillor Fromm again?
Yes.
Yes.
Any discussion? Then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. And then third reading.
I'll move third reading.
Councillor Harkin moves third. Any discussion? And all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good work, Abe. Thanks.
6.3, the Quest Advancing Community Energy Resilience in Alberta Report. Go ahead, Curtis.
So, yeah, Greg and I will answer any questions you might have on this. We briefly brought this to your attention a few weeks ago, or late last year. The town of Raymond had been selected through Quest as one of the, I think, 4 communities that they had some grant funding for, that they were going to be conducting a kind of community climate risk and vulnerability assessment on the community, and it would be part of a larger report that they were producing for their stakeholders. And so Greg was able to work with this group and get us connected, and this report is a direct result of that collaboration. There are some valuable insights that we can take from this report to help us with our mitigation on whatever impacts that a change in climate may have on our infrastructure. We can help us to kind of be a bit more prepared or resilient for those kinds of changes. So Greg, as part of this, is kind of in an area that you've taken a role in. Do you have anything else you'd like to add on this?
Maybe just, Abe, can you pull up the other report?
Number 2 and number 3, Greg.
Number 2, yeah. So this is the 67-page report that was completed just for Raymond. I'm sure all of you read every word and hung on every apostrophe
Yeah.
and period.
like a
I just
yawner.
wanted to highlight a couple of things out of this, and this cost taxpayers no money. This was something done and completed by this organization. Ever since we began kind of our solar journey, we've been under the hitting radar of many organizations. Quest is one of them, and they're a national group that has spent a lot of time discussing issues such as energy resilience, climate change, and the impacts that some things have. They've played a very good part, at least in my own personal opinion, of balancing sort of a lot of the public discussion around issues like this. We know that Alberta has seen significant disaster, environmental disaster, or natural states of disaster in and around Alberta in the last 10 years. And so this report really just talks a lot about what would Raymond do if something happened. So I want to make sure that that's really clear. This is partially to do with an emergency response. Our Director of Emergency Manager was involved in the process, but it also was a process for us to basically highlight areas that we're strong in terms of being able to be resilient through major catastrophes or changes, but also highlights areas that we need to kind of close our risks and shore them up. So I will post this report up on the website. This has already kind of gone public from Quest. They made the previous attachment that Abe pulled up has gone to the province for some recommendations. So I would encourage you to read those, and if you have questions on any of them, please come and see me. But again, we're really thrilled with the work that we were able to complete without really any expense whatsoever. Just sort of really giving us information for the next generation to figure out how we can manage through key some major troubles out there. So if you don't have any more questions, we were just, because of the cost that it took and the fact that this information went to recommendations for the province, I asked Curtis just to put that on for a motion, just to accept it as information, so that we at least back it, the fact that this work's been done on our behalf.
And I'll just finish that thought a little bit. There will be recommendations that have been made that the town can take into consideration when we look at ways to harden our assets and our infrastructure to be more resilient during these challenges. And so we will be looking at trying to accomplish those internally as much as we can. And if there are things that are beyond our abilities to do internally, there may be an ask that comes to council for support as part of one of the 4 priorities and goals and objectives that we've established, as council's established as part of your strategic plan for your term. And so this is just kind of an extenuation of that conversation.
We'll post that up on the website tomorrow for the public's view.
Any questions for Curtis or Greg from anyone? If not, you need a motion from us that we're gonna accept this. Councilor Giddens has a question first.
No, I'll make that motion to accept this as correspondence.
Okay, as correspondence or acceptance?
That's information.
Information.
Okay. Any discussion on that? And all in favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, 6.4, COVID update. Curtis?
We don't have any official documents to present tonight. As part of the conversation, I did attend a webinar with Dr. Hinshaw and other provincial government representatives, as well as numerous municipal representatives from across the province on a conference call. Most of what I have to report on that will tie into 6.5. The province did loosen a few of the restrictions on Monday, where private gatherings outside up to 10 are allowed, or sorry, social gatherings outside up to 10 people are allowed. All the other restrictions, though, are still in effect. On Thursday, January 21st, the province that's technically when these initial round of restrictions was supposed to, that was the end date, but we're anticipating that there'll be a response by the province either today or tomorrow, giving some indication about what they're considering, but we don't have additional information at this time.
I'm sure we all watch the news, and Cardston County's been hit really hard right now. I feel bad for them, especially on the blood reserve. In the areas in the south, in the north, and the central, we're still rather low COVID cases. Anyway, any other thoughts from anybody before we move on? Okay, we'll just have that as an update. So 6.5, arena guidelines and public skating proposal. Go ahead, Curtis.
So last week we brought this general information request for decision to council just to kind of lay the framework of what administration's thinking, some of the rationale behind our thinking, just to kind of start that conversation with council about what we are going to do or should do with our ice arena. If the province is extending closures beyond January 21st, we do not believe, administratively anyway, that there's a business case to continue maintaining the ice. If they do it for 2 more weeks, the skating season is effectively down to 6 weeks. We're not sure there's enough time really to do anything as far as programming with minor hockey or different groups as far as a substantial ability to play games or have playoffs. And that's if they allow us to do that. And so our recommendation is we actually close the arena if they're not changed. However, that is a fiscal decision. There's a service aspect to this conversation, which is different, and that is definitely within the purview of council. There's nothing requiring you to close the arena. It's about $5,250 a week. It costs us net to maintain the season or the arena. And so if there's 8 weeks or 6 weeks, times that by $5,250, and that's roughly going to be the cost. There's going to be no ability for us to raise sufficient revenues to offset that any more than what we normally would. And so it'll be anywhere between a $30,000 and a $42,000 loss we're anticipating for the rest of this season. The one thing I will say of note, and Dr. Hinshaw, obviously she can give different recommendations, but it's not her decision. Numerous questions were asked by the groups attending this call if they could have any indication, and Dr. Hinshaw said along the lines that, her feeling is that there wouldn't be any recommended changes come January 21st, that they would still remain in effect. However, she doesn't make those decisions. And so I can't say anything officially, but my gut says that this is going to be the extension. It's not going to be something that's changed. There was a request from council, and Abe, that's the next attachment there. We did have some of our staff call around to numerous different communities, and they've kind of outlined in that next attachment kind of what the thought process is behind those different organizations, and how we did reach out to the other groups. If you can keep scrolling down, Abe. And so this is just a summary. Basically, everybody's waiting until the government to make their announcement. I don't think really any of them are all that different from our perspective. There's no fiscal case to keep it open, but there definitely is a service provision case. And I think everybody would hate to have the arena shut down and then have restrictions lifted and it could have been enjoyed. It's just that balancing game. So definitely whatever direction you give us, what a suggestion might be, if you're not ready to close it completely, is that if you do decide to put a motion, that you would give a kind of a drop dead date of whatever it may be, that regardless of whether or not restrictions are lifted or not sufficient to a certain standard, that we would then be able to just close or not, and not have to wait for a council meeting, which may be a week or two away from when the restrictions may or may not be lifted, which would just further push it down. So that's just a suggestion, but it's totally in your purview.
Okay, this warrants a little bit of discussion. I don't know if all of you had an opportunity to read that email I sent you with my visit with our MLA, Grant Hunter. I'm kind of fortunate in my position as mayor. When I send him a text or an email, he gets back to me pretty promptly. And I was quite surprised because I know he's been getting lots of emails about these restrictions and about trying to lessen them. And anyway, that's so I asked him that question, and I sent you that article that he sent me. I think it's something that's the whole province is working with, not just us. We're all waiting to have our arenas be used and not just sit there empty and costing us money. And anyway, that's I just wanted to share that with you. Does anybody else have any thoughts? Any of the council members? No thoughts?
I have lots of thoughts. I'm just trying to decide how to say them.
I have lots of thoughts too. None of them are very good.
I saw all those other towns and seen what they're doing, and I would like to, if you want to put a drop down date, like put a date at the end of January. If nothing's changed by the end of January, then by all means, I think that we need to close it down. But I think that a lot can happen in the next 10 days or the next 2 weeks, and if hockey can, or the arena can be open to allow us to play hockey by the end of January, I think that we should keep it open. Myself.
I think we need to realize there's about 150 kids that play in that aren't in minor hockey, that play in that. Their cohorts play in this league that we have here in Raymond, and that's a lot of kids that get recreation from this. So that's, if we don't have the rink, that's something else that's been shut down for them. I agree with Councillor Hagee. We should give it a little more time. I don't mind the idea of a drop dead date, like Curtis suggested. That if they try to extend it a little farther, then I guess they're, like I told Minister Hunter, that they're making us play a wait and see game.
Yeah.
Wait and see what the province does, and it's just costing us money, and he agreed. And that's why he looked into it, he found that article, and then he sent that, and if the Premier hadn't already seen it, I'm sure he sent that to the Premier too, so. Any other thoughts from anybody?
Mayor?
Councilor Peter?
I think kind of like what I talked about last week in committee meeting, the province is gonna come on the 21st and say yay or nay, whether we're gonna open up some rec activities, or are we gonna loosen some restrictions, or are we gonna hold tight? If you kind of follow what the province has been doing, they kind of go on about 2-week windows, it seems like. So I've got no problem with what Councillor Haigie's kind of talking about, but I doubt we would hear anything until probably the end of that first week of February. So if they don't open it up on 21st, like I said, I doubt we hear anything until about the first week of February if they're going to change or lift any restrictions. That's in the 2 weeks. I'm still kind of the mind I'd like to wait until that 21st announcement to see what the province is gonna say, and if they say no recreation and they haven't lifted anything else that gives us any hope that things would change, I guess I would recommend the 22nd, pull ice. However, if they come back on the 21st and give us inclination that things are gonna lighten up, I have no problem waiting for another week, but I doubt that they're gonna come back for at least 2 weeks to change any restrictions if they keep them imposed.
Well, I know there's a push from some of the MLAs, so that's all I can say on that. Anyone else have a comment? Those
I do.
are good comments.
I like the ball hockey idea in there, and I think the longer you keep ice in there, the more that puts that off. You might as well get kids in there recreating right now. I look at the weekly cost of keeping the ice in there, and I'm thinking, man, why wait? And there are people already protesting the COVID guidelines from the province and getting tickets and meeting and gathering. And I think blame it on the province. I don't mind closing it as per the recommendation.
So Councillor Fromm, just a clarification, even if we were to close it, we technically probably couldn't run the ball hockey unless there was some opening in those restrictions.
Good point.
And it would have been the same, they would have been the same that would have allowed us to have hockey continue, so it's.
Yeah, they can't
there's
have
no-
basketball, they can't have anything.
Good point, but if the restrictions are lifted and you can have hockey, you still don't, I mean ball hockey, you don't have the cost of maintaining the ice.
It's true, but it is a different
Curtis?
sport. It's a different skill set.
Yeah.
Curtis, can I ask you where you come up with the $5,250 a week to keep the ice in? Like what is it in that cost? Like is that the cost of the compressor itself?
That's the energy to run the arena, to heat the building, the lights, the staffing costs, anything else, any expense that gets tagged to the arena. So we just take our total revenues divided by the total expenditures and divided by the number of weeks in a season, which is 22 weeks approximately, and roughly the average.
So really, from now till the end of the month, which is a week and a half, it's not gonna be $5,200. It's just gonna be the cost of the compressor, because we're not turning on any lights. We're keeping the heat right down to a minimum, and the compressor doesn't cost more than $100 a day to run. You have $100 a day.
Compressor, but it's good. I mean, there's going to be utility costs to keep the ice cold. The compressor cost does have a cost. Definitely, yes, we don't have the lights on, but I mean they're high efficiency.
And you don't have any man hours or anything like that, and that's the majority of cost of the man hours. So I think that to keep it for 10 days.
We're going off of the averages though, so either way, if we may have that actually, Councillor Hagee, that is true. There may be in light of COVID, there would be a reduction in those numbers, but we're still running at a loss. And so I can't break that down for you, but from a business perspective, there isn't a business case to keep it open. However, there is the service provision or perspective, which is equally valid, and council dictates what the service level is. And if you feel that trumps the business case, then that's totally in your purview, and we're happy to keep it open.
See, like Grand Hunter said, they're pushing for regional restrictions instead of province-wide restrictions, and I think that's going to come, because as you can see, there's only 450 cases today in the province, and not very many in the rural areas. So I think that's going to come, and I think it's going to come sooner than we think. But I like the drop dead date. I think that's a good idea. Whether it's, like Councillor Hagee said, the 1st of February, or I don't have a calendar in front of me. I guess I can pull one up. The 1st of
Roughly
February
12
is
days.
Monday. Today is the 19th, so if, anyway, they could, if you wanted them to pull the ice on about the 28th or 29th of January, if we haven't heard, I think that's be a good idea to pull it over the weekend. Nobody's in there working anyway, am I correct, Curtis?
I mean, no, we don't have staff in there at the moment. I'm not 100% sure of the process to decommission the ice. I mean, I'm sure you just shut the compressors off, but you can't just let the water pool. So there would be some work and staff hours to do that, but.
Okay, well, I guess it could be up to you how they do it, or up to the crew, but if someone wants to suggest, with a motion, suggest a date of a drop dead date, let's entertain that. If we vote it for it or vote it down, we can go that way.
I'll make a motion that we keep the reading open until January 31st and go from there. If they don't lift any restrictions by then take the guys out. If they lift the restrictions, then we keep it in.
To me, it sounds like the rest of the people that we've been talking to, the other rinks, are doing the same thing. Most of them.
That's kind of what all the
Anyone
neighboring
else?
communities doing, and
Okay. Any other discussion on this before we call for a vote?
I'm in favor of shutting it down sooner, but I'm not opposed to that.
Okay. If you're opposed to that date, you could vote against it, and we could change the date of the drop dead date, but that's right, what he's proposed right now is
Yeah, I'm not opposed to the
January
date.
31st. Okay,
Mayor?
Councilor Peters, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess my discussion would be just based on, I know Curtis said he's not sure the process of once they kill the compressor, I know they gotta come in with machines to get the ice out so it doesn't cool. Does it hinder if we go on that Sunday, or should we, to me, I think it's either the 29th or the 1st of February. I'm good with either one of those days. But the Sunday, I'm just not sure if that is any issues on a Sunday if we close it.
Yeah, say
Councilor-
February the 1st.
Councilor Peters?
We went in until the 1st anyways.
Yeah, we can go to the first. Usually when they shut the ice down every year, it's done on the Saturday, and then they go in on the Monday to clear things out. So the compressor goes off on the Saturday, usually.
Okay, thank you.
And other jurisdictions have raised the temperature. Are we gonna do that, or just leave it just like it was ready to skate on?
Say that again?
In Karen's report about what other jurisdictions are doing, many of them have raised the temperature.
Of the ice.
Just
Of
to,
the slab.
to cut, of the slab, yeah, to
Just
cut
to
down the
save
expense.
some money, save some costs.
Like Tabor, for example, they've actually shaved some of the ice down, so there's less ice to keep frozen.
Yeah.
And they raise the temperature of the slab so that it's more efficient.
Do you wanna
keep
do
it
any of
frozen.
that between now and January 31st, or not?
I don't know
It's
if I don't know if
probably
10 days really makes a
Saving any
difference.
money, it's a lot of work.
They did that back before December, so that's,
Yeah.
you know, that's like been two months that they've done that.
Yeah,
I'm sure those that are running the
So-
rink, the ice, have figured that out, what's the best way to keep it colder or less compressor activity.
So then it really is a drop dead date, January
Yeah.
31st, it's
Yeah.
out if they haven't lifted the restrictions. Okay.
Compressor will go off on the 30th,
Okay.
and we'll start taking the ice on the 1st.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay, I'll call for the vote then. All in favor with Councillor Hagy's motion?
yes.
Yes.
Could get my thumb to come up. So was it unanimous?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on. 6.6, the West Salmon matter update. So, Curtis and I met with Mr. and Mrs. Salmon on last Monday and had a discussion with them about this. And Curtis here to do some homework. I don't know if Mr. and Mrs. Salmon are listening to this at this time. Have you contacted them with the numbers, or?
Yeah, I spoke with them as we discussed. They just said to give them a call tomorrow with kind of some updates for you. I don't think they had much inclination to watch the discussion, but if they are watching, that's fantastic. If not, I'll get back to them tomorrow. In the letter that Mr. Salmon submitted, he kind of, on the second page, states that there really isn't a way to from his research, repair their headstone. It's either replacement or you just live with it. I called both Southern Monumental, where they got it from, and also Lethbridge Monumental, and both confirmed that assessment. The improvement is basically just a Sharpie or a replacement of that. And so, this is it. There's no way to go about this. It's an unfortunate situation. However, it was damaged. I think there is definitely a possibility that it could have been damaged during the snow removal process for the preparation for a funeral in the area about the same time. Sorry, go ahead.
If I could add in, we visited with them for about an hour about this and a few other matters, but they, when reading Jesse, I shouldn't say that, reading our town workers' report about it, they understood that they do try hard to make sure nothing gets hurt. We have a spotter, we have someone on the backhoe, and then someone in the truck. So they're there, they're trying to do a good job. They realized that there was nothing was, that they didn't report it having any accidents or causing any harm. They understood that. And so it was a bit of an issue that they kind of just left in our hands to see what Curtis could find out. But they kind of, am I speaking out of the way here, Curtis, just say, but it's kind of an issue. I think they just put it in our hands, and I think whatever we decide, they're just going to accept it. I did go up there and I looked at about 50 headstones, and in their vicinity and others, and I couldn't find one that had any mark on it, except for theirs. There could be others that had, but I couldn't find one. And also, there was one right near there that was pretty muddy too, from trucks or traffic spraying mud on it. That's what happened. He went up there and they were cleaning off the mud, and then they found the 2 little chips that were in it. So that's kind of our report. Curtis, any more you want to say on that?
No, just to reiterate, I think the staff do a fantastic job trying to take care of it in as respectful and responsible manner as they can. There's obviously always ways that we can do things better, and we'll definitely learn from this experience and see if there's steps we can take. As I was saying, I mean, this is an unfortunate situation. However it's looked at, there's no real way around that. Is there a way we can prove that we did it? No. Is there a way that we can prove that we didn't do it? No. So it's really just up to council to decide. The bylaw states that we're not responsible for damage unless it was due to employee negligence. It is a public facility 24 hours a day that has access. And so I think just when council makes this determination, we need to be able to keep in mind the reasoning why, because this could happen again, and we're definitely, we're not trying to shirk responsibility, but at the same time, we don't want to turn it into open season on the town's resources as far as replacement. And so the cemetery does make money. It is a profitable venture, as unfortunate it is to say that. And so we do have money where we could take this expense on. And to the Salmon's credit, they weren't eager to have this be a cost to the taxpayer for their benefit, and I assured them that it wouldn't have been. It would have been out of the revenues that we make from the proceeds of the plot purchases or the opening and closing costs, and so it wouldn't have been a cost to the taxpayer in that respect. And it is in your purview to make this decision if you so choose. So I don't have an exact cost, but it would be the replacement, and it would probably in that range that they quoted there.
If that's what we decide to do. So
Yes,
is
that's what you decide.
Good, Peters, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just, this is, I see both sides of this for sure. I think we all do. Is this kind of an all or nothing, either replace all or do nothing? Or is there a middle ground somewhere?
There's no middle ground from what I could see. There's no way to repair it, or it's just we either do it or we don't do it.
So could we share cost versus replace both as far as replace one and take responsibility for one, or is it all or nothing?
I mean, we did not speak to the Salmons about a possibility of sharing those costs. I think and I don't want to speak for them, but my feelings was, they've already incurred significant expense when the loved one passed away and the headstones had to go in. And I'm pretty sure nobody would really be eager to incur additional costs unless there was a, you know, especially when the potential that it was done by negligence of, you know, the municipality. And so I think, I mean, we'd have to have that conversation with them. I don't think Mayor Depew, and if you feel differently, that they would be all that interested in sharing the cost. I think they'd be more, and again, I don't want to speak for them, but I think they'd be more inclined to let it slide versus sharing the cost. But I do think they would like to see it repaired. But they are torn because they don't want to have it be a cost to the municipality too.
We tried to decide or determine how it even could have happened, because it would have been a backhoe, and like we said, we have spotters there. We don't really believe that's how it would have happened, and I'm sure, I don't think they do either. But when the snow was deep, whether someone was walking around with a shovel and look, because it was deep, trying, just poking things, and that's what we don't know what happened, so we have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the best, I mean, the Salmons are out there pretty regularly, they were saying, and they did not notice it at all throughout the summer season while the mowing was happening. And so my feeling is if it did happen by us, it was probably not so much an employee walking around with a shovel, but I mean, you have a snow blower and you're pushing snow, you can't guarantee if there's not a little rock or something in the snow that you're blowing, and with all the snow that would have been there and the snow dust, the snow cloud being pushed everywhere, I mean, who's to say a little rock or two didn't fly out of there and chip it, right? Like we can't say for sure that it happened, but we can't say for sure that it did. So.
We talked about the different equipment that they use when they go to dig a grave or to move snow, and because it was a heavy snow, there was a lot of snow, it was just a little harder. It's just very unfortunate. That's all I can say on that. So does anyone want to make a motion of what they want to do, or and then we can vote on that, or just want to go just move on?
I don't know, because I'm nervous about, I mean, I think it would be a nice gesture for us to replace that, but then what does that do from this point on? That's the
And
whole
we replace
point.
everyone that gets a chip on it. It's a
mean,
tough one.
It's hard to where you put the blame. That's the
I
thing.
know, but what if we have I'm just a scenario, what if we have an actual vandal go to the cemetery and do some vandalizing?
Which has happened in other cemeteries.
And
It's happened
then is that our job to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't know. I don't know, Curtis, maybe you know that. I don't know what we would do.
I think in this instance, there's some causal factors that might be able to justifiably say that there might have been something. There were 2 plots dug in that area recently at the same time, and so it's not like there's just all of a sudden chips on a headstone when no activity had taken place in that area. However, again, if it's somebody who's weed whipping during the summer, a rock could fly a great distance and you never know where that came, right? So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think this isn't a precedent-setting measure. Everything is taken in consideration individually based on the factors that are presented. It's just, are you able to make a determination in your mind that's quantifiable?
It's very unfortunate it happened.
It is.
Correct.
I've got an idea that's quantifiable. I think there's a reason why we make those out of granite. So that they can withstand the elements and rock chips and everything else. I mean, it's actually in pretty good shape. I mean, you look at the pictures that he provided us, and there are some chips on it. There's no question about it. But erosion happens even to mountains. I mean, ice and snow and heat and everything. It happens. It might have been a weak spot in the granite. We don't know. I would be willing to go 50-50, but maybe not accept 100% of the responsibility. If it were my
If you want to
headstone,
make that motion, we can vote on that.
I will make that motion that we
We can
participate.
give it back to them, and if they don't want to do that, then
I mean, that shows good faith. I mean, it
Yeah.
shows,
I believe
But-
West Salmon takes better care of his plots than most other people in town. There's no
Yeah.
question about that. He knows what he's talking about. But I still don't think we should just, carte blanche, accept responsibility for every
I know,
nick
because
and-
that makes me really nervous.
Yeah.
Personally, it just
So like
does.
I'm telling you, I went and looked at least 50 headstones. I looked at all the ones around there, and I went and looked at my family ones, just because I was there. And there was no chips on any of them except for that one. It's just, I don't even know how to explain how that would even happen to that one.
In two different places, not in just one place, but in two different places.
And they're not very big chips. They're little.
Yeah.
But, so, go ahead, Councillor Foss.
No, I haven't looked into this extensively, but I just, as we were talking, I did a quick Google search because I was curious whether somebody's homeowner insurance might cover gravestones. So I don't know if they've looked into that, but it looks like it's based on just a quick Google search that some policies do cover gravestones. And I don't know if that's an avenue that Salmons would want to pursue, but I'm a little concerned about opening this up because there's no clear way to know who caused it, and I'm hesitant to have the town accept responsibility here.
Yeah. Well, we're almost sure that the backhoe didn't cause it, but that's when they don't.
It would have been worse, I'm sure.
But moving the snow, maybe a little bit before that, there's just no way to know. That's what I mean. We had a very good visit with them about things. So.
Man, if their homeowner's policy would cover it and we paid the deductible, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
If that could be. Because we could
That's
do that
an
in good
option.
faith.
You could give them. I can't remember if you made a motion or not, Ron. If there's a motion on the floor, if that was
I
just a
think he
discussion.
kind of.
I very nearly did.
Very nearly.
Well, you started to make a comment, then you stopped about if it's your headstone. And then
If it was my headstone, I'd leave it alone. I mean, some people prefer a very highly polished surface. Other people leave theirs rough, and because it's their taste. But I mean, a rough one, if a rock did chip that, you'd never even notice it.
Yeah.
So most people that have headstones out there, you have to remember this, are already deceased. There's not too many people that have it out there with their name on it. They just have to put the date in, but it does happen. And this is one of those. So if you understand what I'm saying,
Yes.
so if it did happen, most people are already gone and nobody would mind. It just happens to be one that he's still alive, and his wife's on there, his former wife is on there, and he's just waiting to put his date when he goes. So that's where the catch is.
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand that.
me too. And that's why I would like to do something.
Yeah, and I'm not willing to accept 100% of the responsibility for it because we just don't know. It's a big unknown.
I say let's explore the insurance thing before we make a decision, because I think that's a great idea if that would happen. If you had, that would be awesome.
And it's a monument. I mean, there's plenty of time. I mean, it's going to stand there
Yeah,
for...
it's gonna be there for a while, so
Yeah.
let's have the person check their insurance and then go from there.
So it's a
Before we
good
make a
suggestion by Councillor Foss.
Yeah, really good, Councillor Foss.
Could you reach out to them tomorrow, Curtis, on that one? And then if that is acceptable or not acceptable, then get back to us.
Absolutely.
It's a great idea.
Okay,
Yeah, because the insurance company would pay the deductible, and it's,
okay. I like that idea too.
Me too.
We don't need to make a motion, we'll just let Curtis reach out to him and then we'll wait to hear back. Okay. Let's move on to committee reports. Appreciate those that put their committee reports in. Councillor Capeters, Councillor Harker, and Councillor Foss.
I just updated that report there with Councillor Harker's and Councillor Foss's if you want to refresh your screen.
well, I already have it on here.
Yeah, I already looked at it.
It was in the
too.
shared notes.
Oh,
Yeah, I just added to the attachment though, if you update your screen.
okay.
Um, So we appreciate your reports. Councillor Hagee, you don't have any?
I do, I'm just bear with me 1 minute here.
Okay,
Just gotta make sure I get this right. Yeah, I briefly mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I got some numbers now. The numbers with the Christmas giving tree that the Raymond Act Society, and I need to also apologize because I did not include last time, it was also involving the Raymond Lions Club. They worked together as a joint effort to take on this task in this event. And first of all, before I get to the numbers, they both have expressed to me that they appreciate that the town approached them so they could do this, because it was really good for them to do, and especially that time of year, it's always nice to be able to volunteer, and this is a good way to volunteer. So they want to thank us for letting them take on that project, and I think they did a great job. Some of the numbers here are, I wrote them down. Okay, so, special thanks. They want to give special thanks out to Karen Wild. Karen, apparently she organized all the families that were in need, and got all the names and the children's ages and all that kind of stuff, so they knew what to get and stuff. So they are really thankful to her for doing that.
That's her second commendation,
yeah.
because the
Yeah.
chamber, mentioned
She's
her
doing a great
too.
job.
She's working hard.
So anyways, it involved like the two clubs, like I said, and it ended up involving 24 different families, local families, from our town that were in need this year at Christmas time, and they were able to give presents. A total of 240 gifts were distributed to 80 different kids.
Oh,
So that's remarkable for a town this size. I thought that was really good, those numbers. They said the gifts were, they want to give thanks to the community for the donations. There's $1,095 donated by community people to help pay for the gifts, and all the other gifts were all donated by the community. So it was a very good event, very good, very well organized event, and I think that I can't say enough about these two societies, the Lions Club and the Ag Society. When they are asked to do something, they sure jump in full feet, and they do a great job no matter what it is. They have great volunteers in those two organizations, and I think we're kind of lucky to have them in our town, in our community.
You're exactly right. I agree with you on that.
But anyways, that's my report. We are having an AGM. Just go on, the Ag Society is having an AGM. They got permission. I believe it's on January 27th. I'll have the exact date next week. I'm pretty sure that's the date. And it's gonna be done, they're getting all the, what they can and cannot do guidelines from the government about how many can be in person and virtual and all that kind of stuff. So they are able to have their annual general meeting at the end of the month. So that'll be coming forward.
Okay, good. So what day did you say that was? The 22nd or 27th?
I believe it's the 27th.
7th. Okay.
Yeah. If I can find that email real quick, I can confirm that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Higgy. Councillor Fromm, do you have anything to add?
Just that I did attend the subcommittee of the Ridge County Water Service, and came back with an assignment to just get an itemized list of all what they're paying the town of Raymond for administrative services. So I passed that on to Curtis, and he'll work on that for me. We will be meeting again in February, I think February 11th. And we just talked about issues that extend to other commissions, specifically the Chief Mountain Solid Waste and the CPOs. So they're looking at maybe drumming up some interest from the other two commissions to try to have them all united under one administration.
So we'll just wait to hear back from you on more from this to see what we kind of stand that we want to have on this, or our say on this.
Yes, and feel free to give me any input that you want me to take back to the subcommittee too.
Okay.
Lots of kudos for Abe from that, so they really appreciate the job that you're doing with those organizations.
Okay, good. Okay, then that's all we have for committee reports. We need a motion to accept committee reports.
I'll move that we accept committee reports.
Councillor Harker moves. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, Correspondence, can you move the screen?
Yep.
Correspondence, anyone feel one of those is they wanna talk about specifically? If not, then we need a motion to accept correspondence.
Done. Ron?
Councillor Fromm, any discussion? Then all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. We need a motion to go into closed.
I'll move.
Councillor Hagan moves. All in favor?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we're now in closed.
Okay, we're
Okay.
out.
Okay, and we wait till we're live.
Hold on.
So we need two motions, Curtis?
Correct.
I gotta move the screen, I can't see them.
Yeah, hold on, sorry.
So the first motion is 9.1. Whoever would like to make the motion moves to direct administration to work with the proposal as presented.
I'll move that.
Are we out yet?
We're live.
Okay.
I'll make
we need a
the first
We
motion
need a motion
about-
for 9.1.
That's the development, right? The presentation,
The proposal.
proposal. Presentation proposal.
So you've made the motion for.
I'll move in favor of the,
Back, Curtis?
Councilor Harker moved to direct administration to work with the proposal as presented.
Everybody understand this? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Enthusiastic.
Okay,
Good motion.
which is the next one, 9.3?
9.4, direct administration to proceed with the land matter as presented.
Okay, 9.4.
I'll make that motion.
Councilor Peters, everybody understand? I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay, good. Then I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll do that.
Councilor Higgy?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Yes.
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 Okay,
Sorry, who made the last motion on the land matter?
Bryce Peters.
Councilor Peters.